The point I'm making is simply this to come back is it's like a toothpick holding up a big building. That's what the chart looks like. So to see further deterioration in the dollar index would not surprise me at all.
What do you get when you combine SD bullion and the New Zealand Mint? You get the lowest price silver coin ever released to the world. Introducing the Roaring Lion, a 1 ounce, 4 nines fine silver coin with micro engraving security that retails for lower than some of our competitors sell silver bullion rounds for. Check out this magnificent beast, the Roaring Lion silver coin, at sdbullion.com/roaring. That's sdbullion.com/roaring. All right, all right, all right.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with silverdoctors.com, and back with us today is David Morgan from the Morgan Report, the top silver expert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Elijah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right. Now, we saw Steve Mnuchin yesterday say that, a weak dollar is good for trade, and then the dollar fell to a 3-year low. Gold broke above its key resistance point at 1350, and which is also a 52-week, 1-year high. And we also saw silver spike. What do you make of what is happening with the dollar and gold and silver right now?
Well, you already said it. I mean, basically, we've got a change of momentum, significant. And the dollar breaking around the 91-ish level, I mean, it just straight down to about 89 intraday. And there is no support. So, I know there's people that believe in technical analysis and people that don't, but it does work most of the time if you know what you're looking at. I'm just going to digress for a moment. If you go to stockcharts.com, which is one of the primary services that I use, and I use several others, I mean, John Murphy really knows what he's talking about when it comes to technical work. The point I'm making is simply this to come back is it's like a toothpick holding up a big building. That's what the chart looks like. So to see further deterioration in the dollar index would not surprise me at all, which means probably more props for gold. But I want to be specific. Gold is most negatively correlated to the stock market, not to the dollar. Not that the dollar doesn't influence. It does. But the most direct inverse correlation is the stock market, which means if we're seeing this 1-year high in gold, we're seeing a drop in the dollar that's significant. What does that portend for the stock market going ahead?
Definitely, and that would mean that the stock market would be headed for a crash, you're saying?
Well, I don't want to say crash because with the algorithms trading against each other and everything that we see is within the matrix. I mean, it's really hard to look in and not see the matrix if someone's following a channel like yours. But remember, the alt media that actually tells the truth is a very, very small minority compared to the masses that are glued to the boob tube. Regardless of that, yes, it does suggest highly that there'll be some type of stock market, and I'll use the word correction. It's a little softer than crash. But when you see a dollar in a crash mode, I mean, if you look at it from 92 to 89, that's a pretty significant move. And so could the stock market crash? Absolutely. Will it? Yeah, I don't know. There's so much going on behind the scenes, which, you and others have talked about with the plunge protection team, formerly known as the Working Group on Financial Markets. And for people that don't believe it, just get off the channel. I mean, I'm getting more cranky in my old age, and it's just, why bother? People are sitting there trolling your channel. What's the purpose? But a lot of these are bots. They're web bots that know what to say, and they're automatic, and they just post something up there all the time, and it's just a repeat performance. They go from channel to channel. So, people don't understand the intricacies of how evolved this technology that we use and take for granted every day has really become. They think that, somebody that posts something on your channel, my channel, whatever, is a human being. I'd say probably 80% of the time they are not. They're basically an algorithm, this program that anytime they see these 3 keywords together, then you have to put in David Morgan is da-da-da-da, or Elijah doesn't know what he's talking about, blah, blah. And, and it's a distraction. It's purposeful, and it's for people with, let's say, the inability to critically think, which is about the majority of the educated masses because they're taught in school to rote learn and not to think at whatsoever at all. Way off topic. Way off topic. Sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. I was wondering if we can discuss now a little bit about silver, because you talked about how gold, broke through its key resistance point. What about silver?
Well, it started to show yesterday, and one day doesn't make a market, one of my favorite sayings, but we saw gold up, I think, 1.2 or something, and silver's up like 3.5. And that's what the kind of indicator I want to see. I like to see silver outperform gold by at least double, much, much preferably triple. So if we get a 1% move in gold and a 3% move in silver in a day, then I am convinced that silver is, confirming the gold move, and it's going to overtake gold on a percentage basis, for the month, for the year, whatever. I really think that silver will outperform gold this year. It underperformed gold last year, but this year we're basically on our way. And with Mnuchin basically saying, let's have at it, lower dollar means more, more trade. They're signaling pretty strongly to the financial markets what they really want to have happen. And as bad as the dollar is, the overused expression is, it's like the cleanest shirt in the hamper. I mean, where are you going to go outside the dollar when you have positive interest rates when some of the other major currencies are providing negative interest rates? You're going to flow into the dollar. So that's contra to what we're talking about. We're talking about a lower dollar on the dollar index. But when all is said and done, why is the bond market being held up? And the reason is that there's positive interest rates in the U.S. and there isn't in some of the other major trading partners.
Now, as for silver, what's the next resistance point that we have to break through before, we're off to the races? I know I've heard, $21 is very important for silver.
Well, let me answer a couple ways. One is I would use the gold-silver ratio as a key. So I think we need to get below 72 on that ratio and maintain it, obviously. I mean, could hit it and bounce off it, which I wouldn't like to see. And that's usually what happens. So I like to see the gold-silver ratio below 72. Then what I'd like to see as far as where's the breakout, no one knows for sure. I mean, I can tell you technically it's $25, and it is. But that doesn't mean that's where it will accelerate. What I do know is that we need the confirmation of both the metals. It's 1,550 on the gold market, and it's about roughly $25 on the silver market. What does that mean, David? It means that was the psychological barrier that was taken at those levels to the downside, where the psychology of the market changed from, I should own a hedge position in gold, I should have a hedge in silver. Precious metals are required for a balanced portfolio. Your portfolio does best if it holds precious metals. And all that thinking that had taken place for years just basically went for the weak sisters, and then a lot of other people over the years that psychologically was broken. Psychologically, the thinking shifted from gold is good to gold is I don't want to hold it, especially silver. You could maybe use the word silver to be more accurate, and that is, I wish I never heard the word silver. David Morgan and his ilk are out of their minds, blah, 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 and on it went. So the psychology was absolutely broken at those levels. So as we approach those levels, and it could be, I think you're correct, Elijah, no one knows an exact number, but first of all, we have to be in the 20s for silver. Probably 22, 23 would be enough. And I'd say 1,500 or better for gold. So when you see gold above the 1,500 level and stay there, silver will probably catch up even further. And then, somewhere around the 1,500 to maybe 22, 23 silver. Then a lot of that psychology will come back to what it was years ago, which means, wow, I got to be in the precious metals and I got to be in it now. And that's when you'll see an acceleration in the upside. I don't think we're going to get there this year, but we could. I don't know if we hope we do or don't. I mean, I don't want to force the market to do anything that I want. I'll ride along. However, I do think we can see the $20 market silver this year, and $14.50 gold is pretty conservative estimate, especially what we're talking about right now. Depending on what happens to the dollar and the psychology of the markets. I mean, a lot of the stuff that's going on with the United States administration kind of cleaning up this whole evil empire that has persisted for so many years in a row does have an effect on the psychology of the people. I mean, some of the quote unquote good people are out there thinking, things are getting better, and their psychological attitude, generally speaking, about life, not necessarily about the financial markets, is, I feel a little bit empowered. I feel like, maybe the constitutional republic is coming back and these kind of things. I mean, if you ask me prior to the election, you know what my answer was. And the answer was that there was basically a change of the captain on the Titanic. I really saw no significant change, but I'm watching, what's going on. And certainly I'm not a huge Trump supporter, but I was so anti-criminality that obviously that was the only choice that was in the mainstream. The point being that things are changing. The attitudes are changing. What is the ultimate outcome of this? I really don't know. I can't see the big picture because it's still very blurry to me. But nonetheless, there is certainly a shift. And the shift, from my perspective, has been toward the betterment of the nation state relative to what it could have been under a different administration.
Definitely. And what is your perspective on, I guess, now that we are on the topic of Trump, we just saw, 5 days ago, it was January 20th, which was the 1-year anniversary of his inauguration. What is your perspective on his first year in office?
Wow. I think there's my perspective. This is just my little opinion. So don't David said, because, I'm not that political, as you know. But it's what a shakeup. What a shakeup. I mean, if you would have asked me, the day it was inaugurated a year ago, I would have said business as usual, but I had no idea that, there's shakeup of what's gone on in the FBI, what's gone on in the CIA. A lot of us that are in the truth movement know that how corrupt it is. But, this, I even hate to voice it, but the evil with this pedophile situation, which I pretty much kept my mouth shut on, it's so disgusting to me. I don't even like to think about it. It's so upsetting to me. But, someone has to take it on, and it's pervasive. It's like, to me, before this came out, I knew of it somewhat. I didn't know very much. It was pretty naive. I knew it existed and kind of ignored it. But now that it's hit the mainstream part of the alt movement, the truth movement, you're not seeing the mainstream, obviously. It's like, wow, it's even bigger and uglier than I ever conceived, and it needs to be cleaned up. I can't think of anything more disgusting than what we've learned about this, and there's more to be uncovered. And the idea that honesty, brutal honesty, honesty without love is brutality. Being brutally honest. But this is something that I think is necessary on a psychological level on a nation-state basis. In other words, really powerful personality can get up and tell the truth and really shake the people up, because it needs to be done. And the truth, as I've said on some of my podcasts, I end them with, there's nothing more powerful than the truth. I just say it's more pleasant, or it's more happy times, but the truth is revealed. And when it is revealed, a lot of repercussions can take place, and they are taking place. And there's a counter argument. I don't know if you want to go there or not. Kind of people that are around the administration and this and that. And, I thought about that a little more this morning, that perhaps, the adage that keep your friends closer and your enemies closer. Just because there's certain banking entities that are close into the Trump administration does not necessarily draw the conclusion that it means that it's bad or it's evil. It may mean something different. You got to, again, it comes to critical thinking, which, Elijah, I have to digress and talk about you for a moment. And I'm not trying to embarrass you, but, knowing you're homeschooled, meeting you for the first time, someone that was taught how to think was so refreshing to me, because there's so little of that. And then I look at where you are now, and, neither you nor I or any of us get it right 100% of the time. But, one, we own it when we're wrong. And two, we move on and learn from it. And, what a great way to live your life. Anyway, back to you.
Well, thank you so much. And I guess before we let you go, I was wondering if we could move our focus back to precious metals, and I'd like to actually touch a little bit on cryptocurrencies. But before we move off the topic of precious metals, if you could give your perspective on where you see the mining sector, if you could give us an update on that, now that gold has, broke through 1350, and it looks like we might be, starting a new uptrend. What is your perspective on what is now looking forward for the mining sector?
It's going to be a very good year for miners. I think it's going to be similar, maybe even better than. I'm getting a little optimistic here because of the 1-year high in gold. But first of all, established a trading position for all the members of the Morgan Report, and those are looking very good. Secondly, a good year for the miners, and probably as good as 2016. I remember how well we did that year. And of course, last year was pretty flat, but a lot of these miners will do extremely well because there's leverage to the price of gold, silver, zinc, copper, you name it. All these miners are leveraged to the underlying commodity. So I think it's a sector that you don't want to overlook, especially if you're looking backwards, using that 2020 hindsight and said, geez, I should have bought silver when it was 5, or I should have bought silver when it was 10. You know, you can catch up to those people that bought silver at $5 if you buy the right mining companies. The problem with the sector is that people don't allocate their funds into the sector properly. And I say that from my own experience. Nonetheless, it's a very exciting sector to be in. So I would encourage anyone to, do their own homework, really study the risk to reward profile and get the best of the best. You don't want to buy just a story that sounds good. You really want to know what is the best. In fact, I have only one junior miner on the silver space right now. Let me rephrase that. I have only one silver explorer right now, and they just came out with drill results of over 50 ounces, not 50 grams. A lot of companies brag about 50 grams of silver. This is 50 ounces of silver, and they have like a 1.5% copper, 1.2% zinc, or 2% zinc, a percent and something lead. So if you total that up, you're looking at an asset of $1,000 plus per ton. When a lot of these gold companies are functioning at 1 gram per ton, which is like $40 per ton. So what company would you rather own? A company that has $1,000 per ton or one that has $100 per ton? I think it's pretty obvious. So, by the way, this company it's a little slow, as far as, first of all, they don't put out a lot of news. And secondly, you got to be a little patient with them. But I am, especially when you get those kind of grades. And I know everybody involved, and they have a track record that can't be matched as far as integrity, getting the job done, and big discovery. So I'm pretty excited about that, just that one. And we also have another one that's breakthrough technology that I've talked about over and over again. And only one other writer has even talked about it. And it's one of those things that is a game changer long term, because it's a change in the way that mining will be performed, and it's a way to capture electronic waste. Going back to the gold story, 1 gram per ton. A smartphone has 4 grams per ton. So you're better off harvesting a ton of smartphones, grinding them up, and getting the gold out. That's a 4-to-1 ratio that you get in a gold mine. That's a little easier to perform.
Now, moving our focus to cryptocurrencies, still kind of on the topic of precious metals, I know that at the Morgan Report, you have news about a silver-backed cryptocurrency in the works.
Yeah, about almost exactly a year ago, Elijah, I met with some people in Vancouver after the resource conference about their silver-backed cryptocurrency. And they'd already performed a great deal of work at that time. There's more to do. And so I'm just really releasing it a little bit at a time. I'm giving it to my members first because, they pay me. But I will be giving it out to the free list. So to get in tune with what's going on with the Silverback Crypto, I suggest you get on the morganreport.com and just give me an email, a first name, and then verify it. But the early adopters of this, can only fund this program with silver. You can't do it with fiat. You can't do it with Bitcoin. Only silver. So that is an interesting concept in and of itself. Secondly, there will be returns to the early founders, phase 1, 2, and 3, I think, that will be paid out in tokens, and tokens are exchangeable for silver. So in other words, you fund it with silver, and it's a risk. You could lose, but you will be one of the founding members at a certain level, and then you will partake in the process as it gains momentum. So if you go back to the idea that these things are frictionless, you got to think again. There is friction built in the system deliberately because, as we all know, if you buy silver on exchange, you're getting a 1,000-ounce block. But if you buy a silver coin off a dealer, it costs $1.50, $2 more. Why? Because you took that 1,000-ounce block, you had to melt it, you had to extrude it, you had to stamp it, you had to ship it. You had labor involved, you had electricity involved, you had hydraulics involved, and it costs money. And the same way, almost anything. So the point I'm making is that there is friction in the system. Some of that friction goes to the early founders in form of payment in silver. And I guess that's all I need to say. To learn more, just go to themorganreport.com and you will be informed.
All right. Well, David Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, are there any last thoughts you'd like to add?
No, I just, again, want to give you a little bit of kudos. I mean, you're still a very young man. And one of my goals has been to, make sure that the younger generation starts to wake up. And you've been instrumental in that. So I want to thank you again. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, again, there's nothing more powerful than the truth. People can resist it. People can hate it. People can make fun of it. They can do whatever they want. But the truth is the most powerful thing. And once we get more and more of it out there, I think we're going to see a better and better world. So thanks for what you're doing.
All right. Well, your website, David, is themorganreport.com if people would like to check it out. And once again, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.